Hello everyone, Elite Golden here, and today I'm bringing you a solo game of Axis and Allies Global 1940. So you can see I've got the game all set up here, plenty of my own little additions in the form of those 3D printed flags. Let's see, let's kind of show you the map a little bit real quick. Doesn't look the prettiest, little scrunched. Probably should break out some of those task force markers I got. But yeah, here's the opening setup. Nothing different than out of box, except for one thing. I am going to play with one house rule, and that is I've kind of taken to creating a bit of a new technology tree for it all. I started doing this a number of years ago, and I kind of have had some fun with it. So now I suppose I'll play through a full game where I can kind of, I don't know, keep working out the kinks, make it a little better. So to explain it a little bit, I took heavy inspiration from the Global War version 3 and now version 4 tech charts. And so this is the land technology tree. This is the air. This is naval up top, and down below is complexes, bases, whatever you want to call them. And then over here, they are the wonder weapons. So how this kind of works is it's in stages, but at some stages you get a bit of a bonus. So I won't go too into detail, just because I mean everything is very subject to change. But here, this will probably be like the most extreme example. Heavy bombers, sorry, kind of messing up the camera a little bit. A really good one for the Allies to try to get for sure, maybe even the Germans. And that's, so on a 4 or better, you succeed. And on stage 1, instead of rolling a d6 for strategic bombing, you roll a d8. Stage 2 is a d10. And then stage 3 is every engagement you roll 2 dice and pick the better. So then that one is kind of similar to the out-of-box Axis and Allies Heavy Bombers one. And so what you're looking at here is, to kind of start the game off, kick it off with a bit of technology. All countries are, well, sorry, not all countries. 3 Axis and 3 Allied. So I'm leaving out the French and the Chinese here. But I just kind of figured better balance it a little bit, not have the Allies overrun the Axis with technology, even though America already goes kind of hog wild. And so how this works is at the very start of the game, everyone gets to pick 3 to be at stage 1, or they can forfeit one of those and have 1 at stage 1 and 1 at stage 2. For the opening setup here, I decided not to go with any stage 2 and just kind of spread the wealth a little bit. So well, I suppose one notable thing is for the artillery, to get to, well, so artillery is still a 2/2 cost 4 in my base house rules of this with the technology, but when you get to stage 1 on it, then you can pair it with infantry to give the little synergy and boost an infantry up to a 2 instead of it being at a 1. So some small things like that. And then the wonder weapon technology tree cannot be researched at the very beginning of the game from one of your openers, as well as you have to be at war with a major power to be able to research that. So Russia and America won't be able to go for any wonder weapon technology, as I'm kind of justifying it as that's more of a development during the war for the war type sort of deal. So yeah, that's how that looks. And then here's the opening IPCs. I'm just gonna use the Global War chart because I like it a lot. It's got some good stuff. Then we're over here. There's all the money. Those yellow things are their technology tokens. How you get technology tokens is for every 10 IPCs that you make, you get 1 tech token. So America's at 52, they get 5 tech tokens. Japan's at 26, they get 2. It's rounded down, and I'll probably cap it at 5. Haven't quite decided yet. I think I'll play this one through without capping it, but we will see. And then I think these are Young Grasshoppers cards for the national objectives, but I've long since forgotten as I got them a number of years ago, but I think that's it. So yeah, I suppose talk a little bit of strategy first. I think what I'm gonna have Japan do is go for China and go to war against Russia, really try to help the Germans there, peel forces away best they can, and then hopefully some IPCs. It's going to be kind of a go all in on Europe sort of thing for the Allies. I'm going to have the Indians here turn around for the first turn and try to do that opener against Ethiopia or Italian Somaliland. Kind of got to figure it out first, and then try to go all in on Germany. I'll explain my own personal 4 pillars of an Allied victory against the European Axis later in the game. America's going to try to go a little bit of a kill Germany first type deal, but depending on how well Japan does, might have to turn some of its forces, as it doesn't exactly have the largest navy here in the west and off of Hawaii. And as for the Anzac, they're just going to be trying to hold on, maybe poke holes where they can, as well as the Chinese. They'll just be along for the ride. Yeah, and then Germany, I'll just do some reactionary type stuff. Probably, I'm going to try out something that I noticed a few years ago. I forget if I've seen anyone talk about it in a YouTube video. But if Germany takes Greece and puts a factory there, they can build stuff in the Mediterranean as well as in the Black Sea. So, I don't know, see if anything comes of that. I know one thing is you could take southern France right over here and then have Germany build stuff to help out the Italians, but yeah, I'm not sure. We'll just do some standard openers. That's part of the reason I don't particularly care for this game as much as the Global War series, just because there's openers you have to do to make yourself viable in the game. And so, like the Toronto raid, it's gonna happen. Britain's gonna do its best to defeat the Italian Navy any way it can, and well, it is what it is. It's just how this game works. And so, yeah, it's been a long time since I've busted this one open. Looking forward to it. It's probably been over half a year at least, if not getting close to a year. So it'll be fun. I think I'll do Russia as pretty defensive as usual. No lend-lease for them, but they'll do their best. See what happens. All right, everyone. I'll see you after turn 1 then. All right, everyone. Round 1 has just concluded, and this is the dead pile. Quite a few French and some British ships for sure, although there are also a sizable number of German planes. All in all, not a terrible round for anybody really. Everybody saw some success somewhere really. So America not doing much building up. Now they have 2 bombers, so they're looking forward to that. As you can see, there are no German U-boats, but also not that many British ships. In the opening turn of Germany, they were able to dispatch most of the British ships using all of their navy that could make it, as well as some of their Luftwaffe, and the remains of the Luftwaffe is not too terribly much. They have 3 tactical bombers, 1 fighter, and their 2 bombers left in total. They sacrificed most of that to ensure the defeat of the home fleet, and they did pretty good for it. Paris fell quite easily. I believe they got 3 total hits, which just took out infantry, so not too bad there. Italy came in and took up the rest. Pretty standard stuff going on over here. Can opener against Yugoslavia so that Italy could take it. Then Italy didn't have too good a time against them. They lost more than they gave, but not too bad, not too bad. The Toronto raid for the British did not go well. They lost everything, and even left the Italians with 1 plane. So they bought another plane, and now they're back to their old self. So the Mediterranean currently is looking like an Italian lake. Fortress Egypt going on over here. Ethiopia fell pretty easily. They dealt 1 and took 3. I mean, the Italians, they dealt 1 hit, and then the FEC uh, dealt all 3 hits in the first round. So that was pretty good. The Long March for Persia, and then Iraq is going on. Russia up here just fortifying, leaving one guy in all the border territories, and then fortifying the cities of Leningrad, and then fortifying Ukraine with the industrial complex there. See what happens on that front when that opens up. See when Germany attacks. I'm not too sure yet. China did not fare well at all. The entirety of the Japanese Air Force pretty much collapsed in on them, and so instead of fighting next turn and losing everything, they decided to run away into the hills. So they're off. Anzac began to activate some islands. Of course, they go for the island worth no money, but worth a national objective, so good for them. And then just kind of building themselves up. And America is beginning to fortify Hawaii over here. And then there's their base off of San Francisco. So here's how the money currently stands. America obviously king. Germany now in second place. Allies looking a little down in some places. Axis looking a little up in others. But let me show you some tech. Tech was a terrible round for everybody. Germany went 3 for 3. So good on them. And then I think Britain got 2, and that was it. So yeah, Germany and Britain hit all their techs, and everybody else did not hit anything, including America, who rolled 5 dice, not a 1. So we have yet to see if tech will be a big part of this game, funny enough, but there's always next turn. So Germany's working towards some better artillery over there. They're just about to get artillery supporting 2 infantry per 1 artillery. Tank progression is stalled for those 2 countries. Germany didn't go for it this turn, and Russia missed. Britain got long-range aircraft. Otherwise, they everything stalled here as well. And then Britain got 1 more stage in war bonds, which means they roll a d6, and then they add that to their bank. They can split it up however they'd like between themselves and the FEC and Anzac. But everybody else is just kind of sitting tight at the plus $1 per turn right now. And then nobody advanced improved shipyards this turn. So I'll be back with round 2. We'll see if anyone's really winning yet. We're back after turn 2, and we have 2 completed techs now. The Germans got their artillery. The Russians are making their way towards the heavy tanks. Americans and British slowly moving up on the air doctrines. British are first to complete war bonds, and the Americans are working their way on improved shipyards. No one's gone for any wonder weapon tech yet, but maybe next turn. So, America doing quite little right now. Britain lost the entirety of its home fleet now, and Germany paid for it with some more aircraft. Here's their section of the dead pile. So yeah, with the rest of their Kriegsmarine and air and some aircraft, they have lost all of that. But they've united pretty much all of free Europe. The only thing that's not doing so good is Switzerland, Sweden, and then Iberia. Everywhere else has fallen under the fascist control. Germany trying to get some more subs ready to roll. Russia gearing up even more in Leningrad and in Ukraine, waiting. But Russia's got some more problems. Japan has begun to take some money off of them. They're doing so well in China that they figured, why not take this entire side of the map and then work their way towards the rest. Perhaps the Allies will do an early war on Japan to force its hand, but with all that air power, hasn't lost a single plane yet. In fact, they just lost their first battle in Sayuyan I believe it was they lost 4 of their units to 3 Chinese units. That was a long battle. I think it was 4 rounds of combat, and they brought over 10 infantry into it. So yes, the Rising Sun banner is growing in China, and the Mediterranean looks more and more like an Italian lake. They really didn't lose much here this turn. Alexandria has been taken, so they're really knocking on Egypt's door here. The question is if their transport shuck will be able to move units up there fast enough to resupply Egypt along with the new factory they just placed there. Italy clearly here lost their Horn of Africa, and now now both sides can focus on this single front line. See what happens there. And America over here just continues to build up. More and more tech tokens are being added. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, Germany gets a 4th, so let me give them one more. More and more tech tokens continue. This should have been flipped over a while ago. But yeah, everybody's starting to get more money, more national objectives. And here's how the money's stacking up. Germany creeping closer to America, but now it's stalled since it took France's lunch money the first time and, well, didn't get it a second time. So China has fallen hard. Actually, my apologies, I should have adjusted that. There we go. So yes, China and France have fallen hard. Anzac is beginning to creep up. The FEC has been busy dealing with Italy, which seems to not have bode well for it, as it's still at 17 where it starts the game, and Italy's now up $7. So maybe not so great. Britain finally got their 3rd tech token. Russia is beginning to go down. Japan eclipsing it now. It is likely that Germany will go into Russia this turn, as otherwise Russia will just slowly continue to fall to the Japanese, and Germany won't press any advantage. So it's probably best for Germany to go in now or very soon. We'll see. We'll see what I'm feeling like. Beginning to shore up some defenses against a possible D-Day, although clearly that won't be for a little while. Although since we're going into turn 3, America will be able to join the fight if Japan attacks it or the Allies early, or America will be in the war at the end of its turn. And then it'll be able to collect the national objectives it's currently got loaded up. So we'll see what happens. I'll bring you back at the end of turn 3. Turn 3 is in the books, and everyone is now at war. Not a lot of bloodshed on this first turn, since Russia only staffed its front lines with a singular infantry division. Germany looks poised to perhaps take Leningrad next turn, definitely forcing some really big battles early in the game, since it'll be a turn 4 taking of Leningrad here. They were able to snake around and take Finland with a lone tank. So so the Soviets there have a bit of reprieve. Maybe the Germans will have to turn back around with their forces in Karelia, but it's not looking too good with all the armor and other fast-moving units that can hit Leningrad, including the 4 strategic bombers Germany has. Britain's still not looking great, building itself up, got the subs convoying it nearly to death, not looking too good for them, but the Americans are in the war, and they'll be starting to make their landings, perhaps this turn, perhaps not. They definitely don't have quite enough of a buildup of fleet. I know I said I was going to have America do a kill Germany first strategy, but that didn't really work out, as the planes just, the Japanese planes over here have just been decimating everybody. It's looking like next turn, unless the Russians move out, might be another large battle for them. And the Japanese might just bring everything they can to that fight, including the planes, see if they can score a decisive victory, maybe even lose a couple planes just to have free reign of everything east of the Urals. China's still alive, bolstered by some communist forces. See what happens there. They keep pushing their final battle off for the next turn, but they're now in the corner, so it's not looking like their final battle is too far away either. Japan is definitely poised to attack the Far East Command. No war has been declared between them yet, but I mean, what's it really matter? Everybody's collecting their national objectives. Japan collecting $10 for theirs, so doing pretty good there. Anzac building up a decent fleet with their money, so good on them. America here in Hawaii, ready to roll up against the scattered Japanese Navy. And the showdown for Egypt isn't happening yet. I imagine actually that what's going to happen here is the British forces will end up pushing the Italians out. They were able to destroy the large Italian Navy along with the transports. So they have to work on rebuilding now, so no more reinforcements are coming for the Italians. But for the British, they can keep shuttling troops from South Africa, as well as building stuff on the factory, which did get bombed for max damage from Italy this turn. But who knows if that's just a minor band-aid. And now the manufacturing in Greece from the Germans just may have to try to win the day for the Italians. But maybe they'll go for the Caucasus instead. Can't really get to the Caucasus very fast. We'll see what happens. Perhaps the Germans will decisively lose, and perhaps that'll be the game. But then again, maybe not. So I think that does it for turn 3. See you in turn 4. Hey everyone, round 4 has just wrapped up, and the Soviet Union does not look too good. They lost Leningrad quite handily. They just began to start killing off some of the German infantry that was supported by artillery when they lost the battle, so no German planes or armor had to get taken off. Finland fell as well, but no pushes into the south, and that's where the money really is. That territory, that one, they're all worth $2 as opposed to the ones up here mostly being worth 1, so Russia's still keeping most of its money for now, but who knows how long that'll be. Italy is really having a bit of a tough time now. They spent all their money to rebuild a decent enough fleet to start shuttling troops, and the British are pretty much just responding by building in the factory and then building down here in South Africa to take things up north. Iraq fell to the Allies, and so the battle lines are really well drawn now. There's really nobody who's fighting in different places. There's just front lines really. So like Europe, and then Africa is cut right there, and then now we have here the Soviet Union. The Americans are here in full force. They brought all their bombers. They even took a quick detour and bombed the minor factory in Normandy to its maximum. So that's good on them. Getting ready to invade over here. The Japanese won their battle against the Soviets. They didn't back off, and so they just went in after them. And it wasn't looking too good for the Japanese for a moment, and they lost all their infantry, and the Soviet Union, the Russians had 10 infantry left, and then the Russians proceeded to get no more hits the rest of the battle, and so the Japs didn't have to take off any planes or even start digging into artillery. So it's looking like the door has well and truly been kicked into the Soviet Union. The last bastion is the stuff down in Ukraine, which will have to start moving north to start protecting Moscow, as the movers and shakers up there, I think that's 10 armor units, are going to begin to converge. Russians just building infantry at this point. The Chinese ready for their last stand. That'll happen this turn. Can't escape, nowhere to go. They can get touched by, well, pretty much all of it in any space. So better just to wait it out than to let it come to them, or than to force the showdown themselves, I mean, rather. The FEC is building up a large enough air force to hopefully contend with the onslaught of the Japanese forces. Hopefully, hopefully their air force does a little better than what it did in Operation Valkyrie during my last hoorah with them. All three taken off by anti-aircraft in one battle. That was quite the roll in there. Let's see, the Money Islands are all in Allied control. Philippines fell to the Japanese. Japanese are really starting to consolidate forces here, but the Anzac have built a battleship. So we'll see what happens here. I think what's next for them is to build a carrier so that their fighters can be used more offensively. But yeah, so there's going to be a huge naval showdown here one of these turns. We'll see what happens. Definitely see what happens. Technology is going pretty well. Still, the Russians doing the best for the tanks. Germans doing pretty decent. They've got the artillery that really helps them out there. Allies are dominating the air doctrine. And over here, everyone's just racing for war bonds. I see why they took it out in V4. So I don't know. We'll see. I like the idea of it. I just might tone mine down a little bit. And then America going for attack transports. And also elite infantry. They're now finally getting on the boards for the first country to go for a wonder weapon. So I think those scopes will be Marines, and it'll just be better stuff for landing. The Americans are definitely going to use it for naval landings, and that'll make their landings go pretty well. Let's take a look at the IPC chart. China's down to 1. Well, France doesn't spend money, but they're down to 5. Three-way tie for $17. Very interesting. Russians getting knocked down a little bit. They're now down to 2 tech tokens per turn. The British at 33, very healthy. The Germans at 47. I think that's only going to go up for the next few turns at least. Japanese at 51. The Americans at 52, barely squeaking by. It's going to be a race for those two to see who can take number 1 in the coming turns. But Japan is kind of all out of natural enemies. They'll mop up the Chinese, continue to take off of the Russians, and the Russians they're not gonna divert any forces to help them out or to help themselves out in the Far East. They just need to focus on the Germans. And then here's the Indians. They're next up on the chopping block. But yeah, Japan is really going to have their way here. I think they're halfway to a victory here with 3 total cities: Tokyo, Shanghai, Hong Kong, and Manila. So there are 4 to 6 cities here to victory. And over here, Paris, Berlin, Warsaw, Rome, now Leningrad. So that is 5. Both sides of the board getting close for the Axis victory. Let's see if the Allies can pull something out. All right, I'll see you at the end of turn 5. Hey everyone, back after turn 5, and it's looking a little different. So we'll start over here in the Pacific, kind of switch it up a little bit. The FEC is really being surrounded at this point. All they've got left is India proper, 1 Money Island, and then Malaya. So they're really going to start feeling the squeeze pretty soon here. The Japanese Air Force sure has surrounded them. China is gone, and Russia has just about lost all their territory on the Pacific side of the board. But things aren't all bad. The Japanese had to split up their forces here. They will be able to take those transports free of charge. The British decided that it was more worth it to get forces closer to Russia faster than to keep those transports and not use them, since the Japanese could just kind of guard the area. But the Anzac fleet is on the move, and they joined the Americans after they took the Caroline Islands, although not without loss. The Americans lost 3 out of the 4 landing forces, so whatever they have left is not really going to do much of an effect against an entrenched position. Fortunately for them, there aren't many of those around, even the Philippines. Broke up their fleet, so there's the stuff in Hawaii and in the western U.S. there. As you can see, they're starting to build some some of those elite infantry. Maybe next turn they can complete the tech. We'll look at the tech chart in just a moment here. But to continue on, Britain is still building down here in South Africa, although who knows for how much longer, since the Japanese can just reach out and poke them. Commanding defeat of the Italians in Alexandria. And then the Italians are kind of actually getting kicked out everywhere. They lost Gibraltar, they lost Morocco. The Americans came in full force. Took a couple losses in Gibraltar, no more infantry left. And the Italians are now sticking to just building their fleet back. So we'll see if they can build it up faster than America can place down. No offensive reinforcements coming in, and I think the Italians would win this fight any day of the week. 2 battleships up against the Americans 1, and the British having nothing left. So we'll see what happens there. German factory bombed to the ground. I believe it has 18 out of the 20 damage it can take on it. Normandy did not get repaired, so still 6 damage on it. Although the German submarines here are just waiting, and they might break out. Let's see if they can cause some damage, get a little lucky. We'll see. Americans also building some elite infantry up here. 1 bomber got shot down this turn, but they're doing so much damage, it's definitely worth it for them. Now let's take a look at Russia. Getting closer to the gates of Moscow, Archangel fell, which now means there's no more national objectives they're getting from anywhere. And that's why the British are going to start moving in, just because if they're not getting that $5, might as well have some foreign aid in there. Looks like Ukraine could fall this turn. Either they're going to force Ukraine to fall, or they're going to turn tail and just try to spike Moscow early. I'm not sure how many more turns Russia has of building 10 infantry. They might not be able to afford it. And the heavy tank kind of seems like it may have been a bit of a pipe dream. But oh well, that's all right. It's just kind of fun to get them. And so that's the state of the board. Here's the technology. Land doctrine, some people are still working on. I think some people are going to start pivoting and taking some other stuff. The air doctrine is still dominated by the Allies, although the long-range aircraft is really getting eaten up by everybody. They're really liking it. War bonds, of course, trying to get more completed there. Submarines are doing pretty good for the Germans. Maybe we'll see if those super subs really help them out. And the elite infantry really just have the Allies going hard for it. Maybe we'll see the Japanese try to get it next. And here's how this stands. Not too good for the Allies, but the Axis aren't exactly in a safe position. Granted, America's doing really well with its bonuses. Japan doesn't have any bonuses right now. And Germany has just a couple of bonuses. They really need to keep attacking more in the south to get any of theirs. Britain's doing really healthy. They'll be able to take on the Italians by themselves pretty much. Soviets, without a bonus, they can't even afford to buy a full sack of infantry for the factory in Moscow. So we will see what happens in turn 6. There's round 6. Actually moving pretty fast, getting about a turn done in a little less than an hour, so that's good. The situation in Russia is looking a little less precarious for the Allies. Terrible attack into Ukraine, half-hearted, might I say, by the Germans. Lost quite a bit, and then a counter-offensive into the western Ukraine destroyed all the mechanized units that Germany was hoping to do a 1-2 into Moscow this turn. So good on them, making the Germans either turn around or come back later. Let's see. Yeah, the fold's just beginning to move in. Russia's almost encircled. They've lost everything in the north. Japan has completed their conquest of Siberia, crossed the Urals, and now moving. The Allies are trying to push in from the south to start helping defend. Looking like the Caucasus will fall this turn. Failed invasion into the Caucasus. Russia lost 3 infantry. Germany lost 2 and couldn't take it. The bombing campaigns continue. Germany has no more undamaged factories here in Europe aside from their minor in Greece and then their one in Leningrad. Everything else is damaged almost to its maximum. The American fleet was sunk at the cost of only 2 submarines. The Italians now have full control for the entire Mediterranean as well as most of the Atlantic. The Americans had to rebuild, and it's not looking too good for them. Axis definitely got a reprieve. It wasn't looking so good for them, so we'll see what has to happen next. The bombing campaigns, like I said, were doing pretty good. Americans had to rebuild. Let's see, beginning to push further into North Africa, although we'll see how long that lasts. Let's see, what else is new? The FEC just keeps building fighters in hopes that that's enough to defend from the onslaught. Japanese continuing to take more and more. They are now by far the most on the IPC chart, although America's still beating them out in bonuses. It took back the Philippines. Japan tried to use 2 kamikazes on them, both missed, so that went free of charge. Anzac just continuing their battleship destroyer placements. Looking like quite a beefy fleet here off the Carolines. Maybe, just maybe, beefy enough for the Japanese to force a showdown. We will see what happens. Americans continuing to build. Hawaii is definitely safe from any invasion. But we'll see what happens here at the end of the turn. I believe I'm going into turn 7 now. So we'll see what happens. Oh, I suppose I should probably show you the tech chart and the IPC chart. Like I said, Japan commandingly in front. They are more than 10 in front of America, and America's just about on par with Germany. Britain, again, super healthy. Russia, not very healthy. Their war bonds are keeping them afloat. Anzac doing real good. Italy doing all right. Could be better. We'll see what happens now that the Mediterranean is once again free of Allied warships, or even the threat of them. FEC not looking too good, considering it's tied with France. And the tech, land doing pretty good, dominated by the Axis, and then Soviets are doing pretty good. Air, heavily dominated by the Allies. Everybody's got war bonds who wants them. America hasn't dipped into it at all yet since they make the most money by far, but maybe they'll start working towards it pretty soon. Nobody's been able to complete the Wonder Weapon Tech Elite Infantry, but maybe this turn. The Allies commandingly sweeping that technology. We'll see if the Italians, well, no, the Italians will never go for it, but the Germans might, and then the Japanese clearly have been. They've got 6 tech tokens now, the Japanese do, and it's looking like it's only going to go up from there. I imagine they'll have 7 for next turn, considering they're at $67. All they have to do is snake 3, and that's pretty easy. 1 money island, or perhaps India if they're lucky enough. Yeah, we'll see what happens in turn 7. Maybe this fleet will be here, maybe it won't. Here is the highlight battle of turn 7. Moscow fell. They started taking some armor off the board, but it wasn't nearly enough. In fact, the Ruskies are down to all 7 of those territories right there. And well, since they're not making any money, they're not looking too good. Japanese knocking on their door, Germans ready to pounce. Being propped up by the Allies a little bit, and then here in Africa, the British are definitely noticing that it's possible for the Germans to focus on Egypt and grab that after they take Stalingrad to win the game. We'll see what happens. The British did have the foresight to defeat the Navy in the Black Sea there. They lost a plane for it, but they killed some troops, and that was good. Let's see. Germany's still looking extremely bombed. Just about all the factories in Europe are now bombed in some capacity, including some of the Italians. Plenty up here, but the British just can't quite justify building up a fleet yet due to the subs down here and the massive air power that could defeat it, although this turn they might just have to, and get the Americans in on it as well. Either land in Europe to start taking there, or try and fail again in North Africa. The Italians now have 3 battleships, which is more than the Americans have on this side of the board. We'll see what happens there. But other than that, looking quite uncontested in Africa, of course. India still stands. In fact, they punched out and defeated all the land forces that were next to them in Burma. So they've bought themselves a few more turns for sure. Fantastic move. Terrible blunder by the Japanese to allow them to do that. So maybe they're going to have to start routing some forces over here. I did think about just taking all those planes and going into there. All they got to do is score 5 hits and they're starting to take off aircraft, and they're definitely going to get more than 5 hits on the first turn. So maybe, I don't know, it's a thought just to kind of weaken them, but then they themselves will be severely weakened. So I think the tanks are just going to start driving, and well, we'll see what happens. This fleet is still here, as is this fleet, definitely just eyeing each other up. But the Anzac broke out and defeated one of the navies that kind of split up there quite handily. Even tried to take Java, but everybody died, unfortunately, so the Japanese retain control. I'm not sure. The Japanese aren't looking too good. They're kind of stalling out. They can't have any major offensives in the next couple turns here to take something that'll win them the game or get them closer to it. They're stuck at 1, 2, 3, 4 cities right now. They need 2 more, and those 2 more just are not appearing to be easy enough. So perhaps it'll be down to the European axis to win the game. But we'll see. Anzac doing really well. That's awesome. Americans might get the gall to punch up sometime, but seeing as they have 3 battleships here, the Japanese have 5, along with 2 fully loaded carriers. The Americans could bring 2 loaded carriers, but defense is just a little better right now for the Japanese. I'm not sure the Americans have too much of a hope to actually win that fight. So I don't think they're going to attack this turn. And all of the German bombers are now in Normandy. So something's afoot there. Something is definitely afoot now that Moscow has fallen. So I think they're going to try to mop up the rest of Russia, take those IPCs and turn them. Because Russia had almost 30 IPCs. They had a really good role for wartime economy. And now the Germans have it. And so perhaps we'll start to see the buildup of a German fleet so that they can threaten a sea lion, a late game sea lion. This is going into turn 8 and they're only now going to be building it up. That's definitely an interesting tactic. But we will see what happens. Perhaps they'll just focus on getting the Caucasus and then continuing down to Cairo. But Cairo is getting very reinforced. The Italians even bombed the factory. There's a lot of bombing of factories going on in this game. Everybody's getting bombers. We'll see what happens. So, actually, I almost did it again. Here's a technology. Not a huge round of technology for everybody. Nobody really got a breakthrough anywhere. The Americans now have the elite infantry, but nowhere to go yet. All the elite infantry weren't quite in the right place. And they were stuck here again this turn because they had to wait for the reinforcements to be able to punch back to North Africa or to Europe. So there's the tech. Here is the IPCs. It's definitely looking like it's swinging axis, that's for sure. $75 eclipses the Americans even with bonuses, and the Japanese don't have any bonuses. The Germans almost eclipse the Americans. Perhaps they do with their wartime if they roll well enough. All they need is a 3 and they're doing better than the Americans. British holding up a pretty commanding 4th place, and then just the line of the Allies and, well, the one Axis member, but that Axis member is on the front of the line. This will only go down this turn. I imagine that'll be cut in half at least. So we will see what happens. Come back at the end of turn 7, I think. Maybe end of turn 8. Geez, I'm kind of losing track. Here's how I'm keeping track, though. So a French infantry started here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes. So that'll be... I don't know. I'll figure it out. But doesn't really matter. Everybody's at war already, and I'll just check out the number of videos I have. All right. Okay. See you at the next turn. Hey everyone, we're back at the end of turn 8. Got a 20-sided die here now to keep track of the turn, and so here we are, turn 8. Let's now change it to turn 9. Okay. So here's a little sneak peek at the impending battle between the American Atlantic Fleet and the Italian Regia Marina. Looking pretty even, but American Air Force based in the UK will be able to make it down, so that just might give the Allies an edge. But let's talk about Germany first, as they're first in the turn order. They're doing pretty good, still suffering heavy damage to their factories. Just about every factory they own in this side of Europe has sustained damage, if not almost all damage. Normandy, Paris, both fully damaged. Germany proper is 1 point away from fully damaged, and the one in Western Germany is unable to produce units unless you throw some money its way. So they're really feeling the hurt, and the AA is not helping them at all right now. All American bombers and all British bombers survived this turn, so who knows, maybe they'll get a reprieve next turn. But then as for the rest of Russia, they're down to 3 territories, and the stack of Russians that survived, well, who knows what they're going to do. Probably won't make it this turn. They only have 3 territories left, all bordering the Black Sea, and that'll probably be curtains for them. Back over here, the Americans landed in Gibraltar, but the Italians are starting to retake northern Africa, although they will likely have a very difficult time going up against the British forces here. They also have been retreating into the Middle East. The Brits have been from Russia. The Japanese have taken their pound of flesh and are now moving into the Middle East, but they likely won't stick around for the fight against the Allies there. They have their eyes set here. But they had to do a 1-turn head fake, and I suppose make the FEC look make the FEC a little scared. But instead they took the Anzac out in Java. There was a bunch of ships here, and it only lasted 1 round of combat. The Japanese got plenty of hits. They used their entire air force, and as you can see, they still have all of it left. The Anzac only scored 3 total hits, which was taken on 2 on the aircraft carrier and 1 on a destroyer. So the Japanese are really doing good with their air force left. Pretty soon they'll likely be able to take the rest of the fight to the FEC. Here is the home fleet guarding Japan. Small attacks in Sea Zone 16, just trading blows with the American contingents coming from the San Francisco factory to Hawaii and then up, as well as basing themselves in the Caroline Islands. Those transports just got there, so they really haven't had a chance to do much damage, but next turn the Philippines is on the menu for sure. And as for the Anzac, they lost their entire fleet, not feeling too good about it, so they have to rebuild. And I suppose I haven't talked too much about France. Yeah, well, they made it to Persia. This will likely be their last stand. And then the French up in Britain, well, they're not going to do much. So that's how it's looking on turn 8. Technology is getting a little difficult. Everybody's getting what they want, and now they're just kind of filling out the ranks. Japanese collecting 7 tech tokens per turn. They're quickly going to be a dominating force for sure. They finished their fleet carriers. Americans, British, and Germans finished their elite infantry, so we'll see how that comes into play. Germany began going for rockets, they're just about there. And the Americans have stage 1 of nuclear bombs, so we'll see how that pans out for them. And yeah, everything else is just looking pretty decent for everybody. Really a tipping point right now. The Axis are starting to walk away with it in terms of economy. So this may turn into a game of attrition. I am curious to see what happens. Soviets there at 6, that'll likely be dropped down to 0. The KMT has $1 right now, that'll likely be dropped down to 0. And the Japanese and Germans are only going to go up from here. The Americans or British don't have too much room to grow their money. They're just getting peanuts right now from North Africa, and a lot of times nothing from these islands over here. So we'll see what happens next turn. At the end of turn 9. Later, everyone. Well, everyone, that is it for turn 9, and I think that is it for the game. The Axis for a moment looked like they had the wind taken out of their sails, but it really was not. The Soviets have lost all of their territory, which means the Germans are now collecting 5 total national objectives, 4 coming from Russia, those being Leningrad, Stalingrad, Moscow, and the Caucasus, and then that last one is Denmark and Norway. So yeah, they're really just rolling in the money with no natural enemies whatsoever. There's just a token force stopping them in the Middle East, but they're going to keep on rolling through. Cairo keeps getting bombed by the Italians, somehow managing, the Italians managed to get maximum damage on that factory every turn, and the AA misses, so that's pretty comedic. And the Cairo factory continues to be repaired, then bombed, of course. They just keep throwing in infantry. The transport shuck coming from South Africa continues. Let's see, but the Italians just keep taking more and more of North Africa. And that American naval exercise off of the coast of Gibraltar has been destroyed by the remaining German submarines and bombers. They got a few hits back, definitely took off some aircraft with that. Even 2 out of the 3 transports hit with the Americans' attack transport technology. So that was pretty good to see, but it wasn't enough. And some bombers flew home. And well, the Americans, I mean, they're running out of tricks. They keep playing the same card, and it's just not going to work. Best case scenario now is for them to build up, go off the coast of Britain, have Britain build, and then use those combined arms to kind of just waltz around. But I think it's too little too late. I'll take you to the IPC chart right here, and this is how it stands. Not looking too good for the Allies, considering 3 of the top 5 spots are held by Axis powers. Usually that's how it goes, but considering number 1 and 2 are going to the Axis, is not looking too good. I've gone through the trouble of adding up the IPCs, and how it stands is the Axis are making 156 without bonuses. The Allies are making 106 without bonuses. So already there's a 50 IPC differential, and the Axis are making more in terms of IPCs. And I'm also not counting the French 5 here, nor was I counting the Russians when they had it as well, because they can't actually collect these, they just have them. So 106 to 156, and the Allies are actually also down $5 in terms of national objectives. So it's not looking too good for them, but don't worry, not all is lost. The Allies were able to wrest back the Philippines and have a decent force here off of Hawaii. The problem is there's still no match for the Japanese force here. Had there been another turn, the Japanese might have just gone down here and destroyed the fleet. But instead I decided I think something else might be a little more fun. You'll notice there is no more Japanese aircraft, nor is there anything in Calcutta. It's all here on the battle board. Thought I'd roll this out for you live on camera. And well, this would really tell where the Pacific is going to go. So we have the land forces from West India coming in, as well as the Air Force assaulting. So now, even if the Japanese lose, there are still tons and tons of tanks that can roll their way, and with over $70, they can just throw down another large chunk of Air Force. But I figured this would be kind of fun. So what I have here is all the planes are in manageable increments. So we have stack of five, stack of five. This is a stack of four, or five, and then four, and then these are stacks of four. So the Japanese might outnumber them depending on how this anti-aircraft goes. And I'm pretty sure anti-aircraft fires on defense, not a first strike deal. So that's how I'm going to play it. I have played in the past before where they first strike, but I've played a lot of rules wrong in the past. So we're just going to hop to it, do some live rolling just for the fun of it. Just because, well, who doesn't like to roll dice? So here goes the artillery and light tanks from Japan. 2 hits already. That's pretty good. Anti-aircraft will go back to the casualty strip. I'll show it all afterwards. And then here we go. All right. So 5 dice for the first part of the Japanese Air Force. 2 hits. Not too bad. Not too bad. Haven't quite cut through the AA yet. And then now 4 for the rest of the fighters. Another 2, not bad. All right, so the AA is gone, and now they're cutting into infantry. And now we're gonna do 8 red dice here, so I'll do 4 twice. 3 hits there, and 2 hits there. All right, so that's all the land units. All the land units. Here's how it looks. All 5 of the AA are gone. 4 infantry, 1 artillery, 1 mech. Still 10 fighters though. They will stand strong. So let's see. So the Japanese have brought 9. Okay, they've brought more than 15. So there will be 15 anti-aircraft shots since it's 5 times 3, or the number of aircraft is coming, whichever is lower, and 15 is lower in this case. So we'll roll this 3 times. Ooh, 1 hit. Not bad, not bad. That's one of the first anti-aircraft hits all game, actually. I think there have been very few. There's 2. 3, 4 anti-aircraft hits. That will all be taken. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tactical bombers. All right, yeah, we'll take it all on fighters, which will demote 1 tactical bomber to a 3. Already cutting into the big stuff. So now let's do the 2s. So here is the artillery and mechanized, and the infantry. So here's all the 2s. 2 total hits. Take that on 2 of the artillery. And now for the reds. Let's see how bad it hurts. Roll 5 and 5. There's all 5. And 4. All right, the Indians are going to be holding strong. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 hits taken. And then 4. All right, so here's how it looks now. 1 tank just to be able to take the territory. 2 fighters, 2 bombers, 1 tactical bomber. Well, the Indians are going to hold strong. That is for dang sure. You know what? They might as well pull back. There's no. This is the end. I'm not continuing anymore after this. Let's press on. Why not? See how much damage they can do. All right. The last of the dice for the Japanese. Pretty decent. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits. That takes an entire stack of the Air Force away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They only need 6 hits on 10 dice, looking for a 4 or less. Okay, so there's 3. Let's see. If they get 3 again, it's over. They got 4. All right. So here is what happens. 5 fighters fly back to India. Here we go. 5 fighters fly back to India. The Japanese Air Force is no more, but the problem is 2 infantry, 2 artillery come flooding back in. These 2 tanks come down. These 3 go 1, 2, and everybody just gets a little bit closer. So, does India really win? The battle they do, but I don't think they can quite win the onslaught from the Japanese unless they break off some fighters and some men. But it's just a little bit late in the game to be trying to go all in to save India, as it's not really that worth it for the Allies. They need to score some killing blows before all these German tanks roll into Cairo and win the game. In fact, I don't think I said this, but when they mopped up all the Russians, I think there was probably about 10 Russians left. They scored 1 hit, and so all they did was take off a mechanical infantry unit, and so they weren't actually able to really stop much of this punching power. And with all those tanks, that's 2 heavy tanks, 4 in Moscow, 4 in Stalingrad, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 medium tanks in Rostov, and then of course the 4 in the Caucasus. It's just too much armor, too much for the Allies. So Churchill, Roosevelt, well, not really Stalin. Stalin's probably already dead in his bunker in Moscow. They will sue for peace and let the Axis take their pound of flesh. Well, everyone, this is a really fun game. I've been wanting to do a solo G40 game for a while. Like I said, kind of at the beginning of this, I haven't played in a long time. I think I've played once this year already, and before that it's probably been, well, another year. Perhaps the next solo game I play will be a 1914 game, but I have to get some 3D printed flags printed for that game. I don't have any World War I flags. I mean, of course, the American 48 star flag is still there. British Union Jack is still there. The Italian flag, the French flag, but plenty of flags that I don't have quite yet. So I'm gonna get working on that, and maybe I'll do a 1914 game one of these days here. Hopefully also get back into Global War 36 sooner rather than later, but we'll see. It's whenever people can play, I guess. And with that, I suppose I'll leave you. Had a fun time rolling these dice for y'all. Had a fun time playing. I definitely don't claim to be a world-class global 40 player, but I like to have fun. So with that, I'll leave you, and until next time, take care. Hey everyone, yes, I'm back. What would an Elite Golden video be without a small addendum to the very end of the video? So I got the board all cleaned up, and I just wanted to kind of look at the technology here. Just for anyone who is interested, I put this together a number of years ago. Now I'm kind of to the point where I think Global War 36 is kind of where my heart's at these days. And so this hasn't gotten an update in a long time, and it's taken some heavy inspiration from Global War, like I said earlier. So for anyone interested, here's kind of what I slapped together for this. So in this one, for the advanced artillery technology, I kind of wanted to make all of these technologies a little dynamic. And in that way, it did change the setup of the board. For the artillery technology, artillery doesn't start off pairing with infantry. In this case, you need to get to stage 1 to do that. And so that's why a few countries, namely Germany, perhaps Russia, wanted that to be one of their first technologies of the game. And similarly, tanks, everyone starts the game with light tanks, and that's why Germany especially really needs to just develop those medium tanks as part of a turn 1 strategy, so that they can blitz into Paris with a little bit more firepower. Then beyond that, there's self-propelled artillery, and then tank destroyers. Those are additional units and then we've got mechanized and radar. I really have to update this because I see I wrote myself a little message on stage 2 that says enemy raiders on convoy lines. I'm not entirely sure what I meant by that, so I have to kind of dig back and, well, just take it out or actually fit something in that is a cohesive sentence. Moving on, this is the air doctrines, long-range aircraft, of course, +1 movement, +2 movement in the final stages. Heavy bombers, pretty powerful. Tactical bombers, pretty good. Definitely have to rework some of that because, well, I don't roll 6-sided die like the traditional ones. I roll the hit dice. So target selection on a 1, I just kind of changed that so that it's target selection on a hit rather, which isn't actually all that bad considering no one's going to have too terribly many tactical bombers anyway. Jet fighters, pretty good, and then paratroopers I took from the Axis and Allies one, where you can just drop infantry into an existing engagement from an airbase. That way you don't have to worry about using up bombers or air transports, because bombers are way more useful not dropping infantry. Infantry aren't that powerful. Super subs, kind of nice. Fleet carriers, attack transports, they just kind of work as they do. Improved factories, that's something from Global War. +1 on a minor complex, +2 on a major right there. Improved shipyards. So on stage 2, I'm not gonna do those arrows, but on stage 2, you can mine the area around a naval base. I'm gonna increase that from 4 to like a lot more, because those mines can be a serious deterrent. And then the ships costing less as made in the rule book. Then we have war bonds here. As you can see, it's just a race to see whoever can get them first. It has a little bit of advantage for a turn or two until the rest of the world catches up. Probably not worth it to keep it in at this rate. I mean, maybe keep it in just to throw around more money, but at the same time, if everyone's going to get it, that just levels the playing field and then turns it into a luck roll at that point. Over here, rockets, based on the Global War stuff. Going nuclear, that's nuclear technology right there. I wanted it to be a 6, but I figured on average to roll a 6 3 times, that would take 18 rounds, and you can't even start, or in America can't even start rolling for these in the first round unless they're attacked. So I just made it a 5 or better. And they're pretty good, but I do have to update it a little bit. Elite infantry, just to kind of give infantry a little bit better punch. And then intelligence is kind of confusing, and that's kind of where you can either choose a technology from that someone else has developed and then push yourself up as well. And then in the last stage, you get an extra tech turn that you can try to research an enemy technology that you don't already have, and then when you get it, you push yourself up and pull them down. So yeah, that's kind of the tech that I'm working with here. Probably maybe add a few more someday, change a few, that's for sure. But yeah, that's how that panned out, just in case anyone was wanting to see that. So with that, I'll leave you. So it's been a fun game, but I think the Axis definitely had it. They're making over $50 per turn more. It's just kind of curtains, and then at this point, Japan and Germany are really just starting to just pick at random which technologies they want. Like Japan getting radar, they have probably at most maybe around 5 AA guns on the board, and they're giving an entire tech to that. So that's just kind of my thought. But with that, I'll leave you. It's been a fun game, and I'll see you in the next video. Later, everyone.